Movement in the city is no longer a basic right. It is a brutal transaction.
Last week, we saw what happens when the math of a city finally fails. With diesel climbing to a staggering 130 pesos per liter, the Filipino driver reached to a total breaking point. They asked for a single peso, a marginal request to balance a global crisis. But the state's refusal turned the metro's widest roads into giant sidewalks. This wasn't an act of defiance. It was a physical response to a system that expected its people to absorb the cost of a national emergency alone, leaving millions to walk for hours through a theater of human exhaustion. By refusing a simple 1 peso fare increase, the government effectively asked drivers to subsidize the public's commute with their own hunger. When diesel hits these historic highs, every kilometer driven is a financial deficit. And no amount of selective ayuda can patch a hole this large when it fails to reach the millions of invisible workers who don't fit into a government database.
The strikes might have paused for the Holy Week, but with the continuous rising of the price of fuel, now diesel is actually 130 pesos per liter. I think it's gonna be a big challenge ahead. It's also a challenge for the jeepney drivers, for the jeepney operators. A huge chunk of the earnings of the working people actually goes to transportation alone. The math is not working anymore.
Today, we took one of the last ferries before the city shut down for the long weekend. The juice hasn't run out yet, but for the ordinary Filipino, it has become so expensive that the machines have essentially stopped being tools for survival.
Today is Monday, and we are now on to the Holy Week. The operations of the Pasig River Ferry will be paused for Wednesday until Sunday, and will resume on Monday. So we're taking advantage of this. But as you watch this episode, it might be Easter Sunday already or the regular work already.
As we leave the heat of the asphalt behind, the silence of the river is a stark contrast to the expensive chaos of the road. We are seeking a temporary bypass for a population that hasn't run out of fuel, but has certainly run out of patience. Out here on the water, the logic of the commute changes. We are here to see if the river can carry the weight of a city that can no longer afford its own movement.
Pulo Station.
Once you are on the water, the vibration of the ferry deck is the only thing that feels real. It is a low, grinding hum that travels right through your shoes. A constant reminder that we are moving while the traffic on the surface has thinned out. Paralyzed not by gridlock, but by the sheer cost of the pump. The air out here is thick with the scent of stagnant water and old diesel. Drifting past silent riverside factories that were built decades ago when energy was cheap. Now, these empty buildings stand as hollow observers, watching a working class struggle to move just a few meters inland. The tragedy of the Pasig River is that it remains an underused bypass in a stifled metropolis. In Bangkok, the Chao Phraya River is a masterclass in logic, seamlessly integrated with their BTS SkyTrain system at stations like Safan Taksin, moving millions with surgical precision. Here, we have a free, fully subsidized waterway that sits empty because the last mile is a broken promise. We have built a city where the water is disconnected from the rails, forcing the ordinary Filipino to choose between a free boat they can't reach and a jeepney they can no longer afford to fuel. The silence of the skyline today is a towering monument to a system that prioritizes the ledger of the state over the dignity of the human. From the middle of the river, the Makati and Ortigas high-rises look like a postcard, stripped of the usual smog because there are fewer engines burning on the road. But that clarity is an illusion. It is the quiet of an economy that is holding its breath. We are surrendering to the river's slow grace before the city demands a return to the expensive reality of the grid. We are floating right through the center of political power, but the numbers dictating our daily lives are completely unbalanced. While we enjoy this quiet ride, the rest of the country is navigating a financial crisis that no visible exit ramp. The hard data tells a story of systemic inaction. While the Philippine government clings to excise taxes and VAT on fuel to protect its revenue, neighboring nations like Vietnam have already slashed oil prices by nearly 19% by simply cutting taxes. Our state is choosing to hedge its income while actively watching its people bleed at the pump. The ayuda system is a recurring distraction that ignores the scale of the emergency. Giving a one-time subsidy to a fraction of the population does nothing for the millions of self-employed, the small business owners, and the suburban commuters who fall through the cracks. The true economic value of movement is the ability to access opportunity. When you tax that movement into extinction, you aren't just collecting revenue, you are stifling the very soul of the economy. By refusing to remove fuel taxes during a national emergency, the state is conducting an arbitrage of survival, where the government keeps its gold and the citizen loses their time. The river remains the only thing that doesn't need a budget to flow, yet we treat it as a footnote in our national strategy. The government has assured us that our crude oil supply is secure until June 30, but that date is a finite horizon, not a solution. We are essentially living in a 90-day countdown, moving to a landscape where the machines are on a countdown. This isn't just a transport crisis. It is a preview of a future where movement becomes a luxury that only the protected can afford. As we get closer to the older parts of Manila, we realize this river isn't just a historic relic. It is the ultimate untapped bypass. Pasig River was the main highway of the city long before the heavy traffic of EDSA was ever conceived. Today, we are at a literal crossroads for the future of our urban life. We can either revive this waterway with a fleet of modern electric ferries that decongest the land, or we can suffocate our last remaining artery under the Parex, a controversial, elevated concrete tollway that would cast the river in permanent shadow. Building more roads over the water is a confession that we have learned nothing about the cost of our mistakes. A concrete roof over the river doesn't solve the crisis. It simply hides it behind another toll gate. The blue economy of the river offers a balanced ledger for the future, but it requires a bravery to choose open spaces over privatized infrastructure. We're standing on the deck of a solution that we are choosing to ignore in favor of the same asphalt that has already failed us.
I am finally here at the last station in Escolta. We are here by the bridge. We just docked at the Escolta station. I'm actually just happy and a little bit surprised, no, by the beauty ferry ride from Guadalupe to Escolta, and actually every day from Monday to Saturday, regularly giving free rides to the residents of Metro Manila.
The brief silence of the Holy Week is ending, and the gravity of our economic reality is waiting for us at the terminal. Millions of Filipinos are returning from the provinces today, packing their bags for the long trip back to the city. They are coming back to the exact same paralyzed, expensive system they tried to escape, proving that endurance is an asset that has finally hit a zero balance.
By the time that you're going to be watching this, it's probably Sunday or Monday where everything is back to normal traffic. As usual, we're used to the people telling us na okay lang yan, kaya natin yan. Despite the challenges on the increase of fare, of commute, especially for ordinary Filipinos. But wala naman tayong choice but to really endure it because hindi naman tayo pwedeng hindi magtrabaho. And hopefully the government could do something about that. No, remove the excise tax, remove the VAT and other taxes being shouldered by the common tao.
Tomorrow morning, the heavy traffic comes back to life. From the dirt roads of the north to the coastal paths of the south, the engines will start again, burning 130 peso fuel as the massive machinery of the country demands that everyone clocks back in. This resurrection of the grind is a shared experience that transcends the borders of the capital. Whether you are navigating the narrow streets of Manila or the long highways of the provinces, the cost of moving from point A to point B has become the primary tax on your existence. Going to work is never just a commute. It is a profound exchange. We trade our limited hours, our hard-earned money, and our mental peace just to participate in an economy that often feels like it isn't designed for us. We have been told for decades that our greatest resource is our ability to endure the heat, the delays, and the rising costs. But a nation cannot build a future on the exhaustion of its people. We are more than just the units of labor moving through a landscape. We are the heartbeat of the country, and that heartbeat is being measured in liters we can no longer afford to buy. Tomorrow, the sun rises and the struggle begins again. But before you step back into the line, look at the ledger of your own life. Consider the weight of the hours you spend just trying to arrive, and the quiet moments you sacrifice to the asphalt. The price of movement is high, but the price of our time is infinite. We are all passengers on this final ferry, seeking a destination where the cost of living doesn't require us to give up the very reasons we choose to live.